Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. Today is a very special day. We are honored, highly honored and privileged to have Dr. Joshuamaponga. And before we start anything else, let us have our traditional Kalenjin spirituality prayers led by our elder. Karibu boy.
Asante sana. Hello. Asante sana. Ngabwa yu ko boni ketoroje pondane auto andenya nokanyagine kutokateji kongeta urigi gowo. So kulengini karibu hapa nyumbani akingeta utinye kuyiwekte uligewe iwe Mungu utaritin kwa mugia utaritin na uligimita o inyo sayo. So ameje gagoje ngolian bondane amuge uyosit ngan gole to mayosit gole to chi chana yan amuge le woro Maponga wole wingeten akole wonyo inyo igate agimeje si wektege wogori wole bunora gatol oba Mungu tinye ang Mungu tinyo akeoba tinyo aktoyoy tinyo agasis nogojoru abajegai tingoto Mawende, kuruwei, tinyo, ang Mungu, tinyo yi, samanenyin, nagingiti, kwagur, nabaji, aoy guibu, netani, kitinye, amganya, sere.
Kongoi missing. Thank you so much, Mzee, for the prayers. That is Asiisian prayers that is normally done when opening various ceremonies. And now, Dr. Joshuamaponga, you are welcome here in Kalenjin land. This is Nakuru city in the country, Kenya. Welcome so much. We are here at Good Put Hotel, having a good time. We want to understand our African spirituality and how we can revive it and how we can move forward as Africans and also as Kalenjins and also as Kenyans. Thank you so much. You can have a seat and then we can begin our discussion.
Before you begin also, I come from, we cross-pollinate, we learn from each other. Sure. I also have Mbira here, which we use for African spirituality.
Yes.
So it would be nice to fuse also and play something small for the people out there.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Wonderful, wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Joshuamaponga. And to our viewers, this is a very momentous day, a very special day that we have Assis, or our Creator, has given unto us. We have Dr. Joshuamaponga, who is one of the champion of African spirituality, the rising of African spirituality. And he's been here in Kenya, and he'll shortly introduce himself to tell us about himself and how he found himself here in Kenya. We know Africa was a great place before it was divided into various units, but we are glad that, Maponga, you are here. We highly appreciate your presence. We thank Assis. In Kalenjin, we call God Assis, the Creator, the Almighty Creator. Yeah, so maybe quickly, I will introduce my friend, my fellow Asiisian. Maybe you can say something, my friend, so that we can begin the discussion.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Binot, my fellow Asiisian, and also Asiisians in Kenya, Asiisians even worldwide, because we are live in our Facebook page, in our social media channels. So Asiisians globally, we are hosting one of the greatest African men, the one who most of the Asiisians have been requesting that they want to listen to him. So today we had a very short notice to give to you, because he had a very short schedule. He was in the Mount Kenya, and then we decided that you cannot only be in Mount Kenya, you need also to come to the valley. And he has accepted, and he has come here with us. It's a rare occasion. So Dr. Mabonga, my name's Chebon, Chebet. Another name they call me Harap Lokeke, and I'm also an engineer by a profession. I'm an heart scientist, so I'm really enthused, and I'm a big fan and a supporter of Mabonga, and also I'm an Asiisian. So thank you so much. So it will be a great moment, and Asiisians, you should be tuned in. You should be ready to listen and to learn a lot from one of the biggest African Pan-Africanists and a scholar. So thank you, Binot.
Thank you so much, Chebon Arap Lokeke. So today, Joshua, you can kindly introduce yourself the way you like it. We've watched your videos, so many of them, but we want to hear your voice, the roaring voice from all the way, is it Zimbabwe or South Africa, or let's just say Africa. Kindly.
Well, thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to be part of this wonderful, wonderful community. They call me Maponga J, those who know me from the religious space of Christianity, where I used to work very actively. I used to work with the Seventh-day Adventist Church for about 33, 34 years plus. And later on in life, you learn, you grow, you change shoes, you change trousers, you stop drinking milk, you start eating meat. You know, when you're young, your mother would chew food for you, then put in your mouth. But when your teeth start coming out, you start breaking and eating by yourself. Without saying much about where I used to be, I found myself on a journey of personal discovery. The book that led me on this path is a book that I wrote entitled Going Places in the Spirit, or Find Your Truth. It's there on the internet, I think. You can download for yourself. And I've always tried to define my journey, not as a breakaway or anything, but rather as a bridge builder between various forms of faith. Having worked in the Christian space, studied Catholic theology, Presbyterian, Episcopal, Evangelical, worked in the Pentecostal space, Reformed churches, and the list goes on and on. There was one that I feared the most, which I had been taught to demonize for the longest of time, and that was African culture. But immediately I stood back to look into the same bucket of African culture, and looking into the Bible text, it was amazing that the stuff I started to see, the reality I started to recognize, and the similarities of practice started to give me a different perspective altogether, which then led me to my title, which I usually go by. Some of you know it better. When I'm saying I'm the watcher, from the future, living with you in the present, with solutions from the past. So I try to balance right there in terms of my introduction. That's the best introduction I can give you. I have been able to step into the future and see where the world is going in terms of trends. I'm present with you right now to be able to experience life with you. But the universe has been kind also, and it has sent me back, way back, to look into where we are coming from in terms of our culture, and to bring those 3 times together. As you see it on my thinking tool right here, this is the past, this is the present, and this is the future. I'm constantly moving between those 3 spaces, both mentally, spiritually, and otherwise, trying to be relevant in terms of time frame. So yeah, I'm a writer, I'm a musician, I am a fashion enthusiast. I like my clothes, I make my own clothes, and I truly believe that a tree without its roots cannot stand. And therefore our culture, our history remains our solid foundation on which everything else can be built on. And civilizations that have survived have taken their history very seriously and have stopped memorizing other people's history. Rather, they uphold their own history, which is something Africans have been told to demonize and then Christianize. Halloween, Father Christmas, Easter, Valentine's, and all these are white demons that Christians would say they don't do culture. I don't do culture. But then you find them getting married in white weddings, and you ask them, what culture is that? Is it still not white culture? So this whole facade and lies Christians tell themselves that they don't do culture. They must just be honest and say, we do white culture. We no longer do black culture. So in one nutshell, I'm a student also of life, and we respect the elders that are amongst us who will be guiding us, to remind us, to remember us what we have forgotten.
Thank you so much, Dr. Maponga. We really appreciate that. Was a very comprehensive introduction. We now have a clear picture of who you really are and the aspirations that is building up in your heart. And we are also happy to host you here. And my name is Asiisian Martini Binot. I am also an Asiisian, an economist by profession, a consultant also on matters of enterprise development. But above all, I appreciate the fact that my ancestors had a special way of connecting with the Creator, and that is the Kalenjin spirituality. In Kalenjin, we call it Saetap Kipka. Kipka means home, all about home. The praying by connecting with our home. Kipka means at home. So we call it Saetap Kipka, but because we call our God Asis, that is why we call ourselves Asiisian. So automatically we sort of find a way to identify someone who believes, who knows Asis as an Asiisian. We also call our spirituality Asiisianism. Sometimes we call it Kalenjin spirituality, Asiisian spirituality, Saetap Kipka, and all that. So thank you so much. Maponga, can you tell us, you are here in Kenya. We know you are from the Southern Africa. Can you tell us where you are born, maybe quickly where you are born, and how did you find yourself here in Kenya?
Well, my history is quite diverse, and I've not tried to make it simpler than it is. Mystery has it that I have connections from as deep as Malawi and Mozambique, from my grandmother's side, on my father's side, who is a Sena, who went from Malawi, Mozambique, then ended up in Zimbabwe. They belong to the zebra tribe. I don't know what you call them here in terms of zebra.
Yeah, in Kalenjin we have the totems. Yes. The animals represent maybe a clan, and there's a clan called, I'm forgetting the name. They are using the zebra as their totem.
I want to know that clan.
Yeah, I'll get the name right away.
The elder should know. The elder should know. So from my grandmother on my father's side, They are from the Zebra clan.
Yeah, I remember.
Tembo.
It's called the Kipsochon clan in Kali.
Kipsochon.
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 And
Yes.
so you are now Kipsochon.
No, from my grandmother's side, yes.
Oh, your grandmother's side.
Yes,
Oh,
from my father's side.
Oh, okay.
Then the grandmother on my mother's side is from the Venda tribe, which is in South Africa, and they call them from the tribe of the waters, the Ziba, the pool.
Ziba.
The Ziba is like the pool of water.
Oh, okay.
They are from the water.
Uh-huh.
Yes. Then my grandfather on my mother's side, partly Zulu, partly Swazi, right from the deep. They are from the clan of the lions. And
we have the lions
totem.
in Kenya.
They call them
Talai.
Shumba, they call them Shumba, they call them Sibanda. What do you call them here?
It's called Talai clan. Talai.
Yeah, the Talai clan. And ultimately on my father's side, my grandfather on my father's side is Wagima, which is from the monkey tribe or the baboon tribe. So what do you call them?
In Kenya, here in Kalenjin, it's called Kipiegen.
Kipiegen. Yeah.
We have so many clans using the baboon as their totem. We have Kipiegen, we have Chesibon, we have, I'm forgetting the other three of them.
Okay.
Yeah, but the biggest clan using the baboon as their totem is called Kipiegen. It's across all the Kalenjin communities.
That's my connection. So literally it's the four clans or four totems that have come together. So that makes my compass. You know, the two maternal, the two paternal. So that connects me to the earth itself.
Yeah.
So I'm originally from the great Zimbabwe, which is the builders of the great monuments, which we call the great. We were great in Africa before Britain was great. And we have 286 sites in the southern hemisphere, as close as Tanzania, Tanganyika, as deep as Mapungubuke in South Africa, and as far end as Angola and Namibia, and there's Mchena in Mozambique, and the Great Zimbabwe being the biggest of them all. So during the empires prior to colonization, actually Zimbabwe, Mwene Mutapa, could have actually handled the entire southern hemisphere, from the foothills of Guruswa, Embo, as we call our mother, and Meru, Embo, and Mumbi, as you might have the theories around Mount Kenya, that Embo is on the south and she's the mother of all the tribes that went that way. And then Mumbi could be around here, then the other to the east. And I think this is quite critical. Yes. Because as Kenyans, when you say that Kenya is the cradle of mankind, historically and biologically and otherwise, therefore in your theologizing, you cannot exclude other nations. And you end up saying you have Kalenjin or you have a local Asianic sort of theory. But if this is the mother of mankind, then we need to find a way as to how does our theology, how does our Asiisian understanding, being the roots of all belief systems, we need then to start plugging in all other tribes that left from here. For we believe in the South that our genesis as Africans is actually in the basin of the Great Lake Valley, which is between Mount Kenya, Mount Kilimanjaro, the Kasese mountains of fire, and that whole valley there. That's where humankind, including Serengeti and this whole area here. Yeah. Yes, and Lake Nakuru, all these spaces. Yeah. So if humanity started here, we will need sooner or later to see how do we plug everybody into this genesis of Asiisi, so to speak. So that for me becomes very exciting. But we are clear, our grandmother is Embo, who is in the south. So every time we are singing in the south, we say, let's go back to Embo. And we cannot say we are going back to Embo and we won't be able to find Asiisi here. We won't be able to find Mumbi here. We won't be able to find Meru within the Rift Valley.
Thank you so much, Maponga. It seems that there's so much we can trace back to in terms of connection between all the other African communities and even beyond Africa. So I want us, maybe you can just tell us, how did we find ourselves so lost and disconnected from our roots? how did we find ourselves in a situation whereby if Africa is the mother of all mankind, or why are we so lost into foreign ideologies, foreign worship of other deities? What is really ailing Africa in terms of the disconnection from their roots? I think we can start from there as we now build up the conversation itself.
It is a very, very complicated process, which we need to appreciate that it's not an overnight project. This project has taken 400 years in our immediate history. It has taken another 1,800 years from the time Christ is supposed to have been born. It has taken quite some centuries, if not millenniums, to fine-tune this program. When we finally wake up today and we find that our history dates back way before the birth of Christ, way before the writing of the Bible, way before. I mean, you look at our pyramids, people will be putting dates with it so that they can conform with the Bible. But when you get into serious archaeology, those things are 12, 13, 15, 20, 40,000 years ago, way into the past, which history by itself is much older than what the biblical Christianity with its colonization project wants to project. And the problem is, many of us as Africans, we think that our history begins when white people arrived here. So we interpret our history based on what the enemies of our identity say we are. So immediately talk about Kenya. You don't talk about Kenya before Kenyatta, for example, before the liberation of Kenya. And then you understand, once you go back there, issues of land become important. Where are we? Where did we used to live? How did we end up where we are? Where did we start? Who took the land? And etc. And unfortunately, our politicians have become our worst enemies because they got into office only to take over the power of the same colonial system that was destroying us and perpetuating elements in terms of our development. One, governance was totally distorted in terms of how we rule ourselves. The law itself, the Roman Dutch law. The Romans are here, but they don't live here. But they live as law. And the Roman Dutch law comes with its marriages, comes with its land rights, comes with its fashion, comes with its food, comes with its medicine, comes with... So you literally are looking at a master plan that has the 7 pillars guiding it in my latest book that I've just published entitled African Questions and African Solutions. You will find those issues identified clearly: governance, education, business and economics, sports, recreation and entertainment, health and technology, ultimately spirituality. So that the architecture of colonization was a thorough project. So whether you're eating, you're drinking, you're sleeping, you're walking, you're buying, you're plowing, colonialism is waiting for you on every door. And unfortunately, Christianity is the main culprit, particularly religion, Christianity and Islamic religion. They are particularly responsible to make sure that Africans don't practice their culture.
So maybe to jump in quickly again, how, because I think the genesis of most of the problems we are facing as Africans, as we lost our identity, is that the religion that was introduced to us sort of led to the destruction of our social, political, spiritual, and economic structures that were, they call it traditional, but it was still sustainable. Can you, based on your experience, your observation, your academic endeavors, how has religion, the religions introduced to Africans, how has it led to the destruction of the social, cultural, economic, and spiritual structures and systems that we initially had, that we initially had in Africa?
The main issue we must be very clear about is this cultural migration from identity of who we are to what the religion wants us to be. And then you'll find that, and what made it so complicated is for us to accept Christianity as it came. It looked so familiar to us in terms of the Old Testament, for example, the practices that are there. But it had been tweaked and changed. When it is talking about slaves, we could not see it quickly that actually the slaves are meaning you. Instead of us looking at ourselves as masters, we became the servants of our text. And you never could believe that even God was colonized. Angels were colonized. Disciples were colonized. The whole book is full of white names, including heaven, Gabriel, Michael, and what and what. They are all white people. And women were removed from the text. God himself is afraid of women. Because the male chauvinistic attitudes of the colonial masters did not manage to respect women. But here we are in the beginning of our conversation, already talking Mumbi, already talking Embo, already talking the Wanjirus, already talking the goddesses. And in Shona, for example, when we identify women, we say Mudzi, Mai, Mudzi, which means roots. Mai, which means mother. So your roots are situated in your mother. Your mother is the access to your ancestry. And we do not undermine the place of a woman within the kitchen, which is the main house of the whole house, where grand matriarch sits. And women are sitting on the left, men are sitting on the right, and on the top right-hand corner, that's where the grand matriarch sits with the men. Because she is the connector between those ones and these ones that are right here. So we have never doubted that actually our African spirituality is a feminine energy. As it were, we still call Africa Mother Africa, for crying out loud. It has never been Father Africa. And so the maternal connections, the white men could not understand that. So they come up with all this patriarchal stuff, and they've intoxicated us with a polluted environment of what homes look like, what land looks like, and they don't respect things that are seeming vulnerable. Hence, nature is being abused. Whereas in our African space, we revere nature, respect sacred spaces, because we believe in them, that there is life. Soil itself must be respected. We don't fight for land. We fight for soil. For it is on soil that air above and the ancestors below, they meet on soil.
So I want to agree maybe also, like when you look at the Mabonga, when you look at the Kalenjin attributes of their god, they talk about Chep Kochor, they talk about Chep Kelian Sogol, they talk about Chebana Muni. So the word Chep is a feminine aspect of it in the Kalenjin language. So we agree with you that you see when the Bible now, when you are decolonizing God, they removed the feminine part in our culture. But in the Kalenjin language, you find that Asis, how they are attributing God, they are seeing in a feminine way. You see now? So I think, Binod, it's true that you look at even our ways that the moment an African man appears into the Christian context now, like how Mabonga is dressed, or when you enter into a religious church with a stick like this, the God does not like us. This God just runs away. The moment you wear something like this, it runs away. It does not want you to be in your African identity. So that is true. So I think that's a critical part of the film.
Thank you so much, Ebon. Actually, for instance, my name is Kiplagat. Kip refers to male. Chelagat means a woman or the female. Chep means female. Kip means
so in your naming, you actually have male and female.
Yeah. Kiplagat, Chelagat. Kip Kosgei, Chep Kosgei for the lady. Kip Chumba, Chep Chumba. Kip Ngetich, Chep Ngetich. So Chep is the lady, and then Kip is the gentleman.
Very interesting. So
Very
you
interesting.
name, when you are naming your children, you include both the father and the mother in the naming.
No, in terms of naming, we use the surname is obviously the father.
The father, yes.
Because the clan is actually, you carry the clan of your father.
Yeah.
But again, in our traditional setup, in our systems, whether in marriage and everything, we respect so much the clan that gave you your mother, the uncle side. So we call it Kap Mama. Where your mother came from, it is always
that's actually Zulu.
so much respected.
That's actually in Zulu. You say, Ka mama, belonging to my mother. That's actually Zulu.
Oh, that's interesting. So when you say Kap Mama is where your mother came from. Yeah, so when I go to my uncles, where my mother come from, where I strongly respect, you can't do anything without your uncle, where your mother came from. Because without them, without that clan, you wouldn't be here on this space.
In our Shona culture, actually, something very nice we could be sharing, and as we're going along, we respect more the children of the daughter than we respect the children of the men, because we don't know if this woman was faithful to give birth to our children. But the daughter, we know the stomach where she slept. So you find that as a mshana, as we call you, as a grandson to your uncles, you are really one of us, because we can confirm that the womb that comes out where you came from belongs to us. But as for the children of the boy child, we just hope that our daughter-in-law was faithful.
Yeah, that is true. And again, maybe to build up on that, in Kalenjin also we have a saying that when we are facing a lot of problems, the community is facing a lot of challenges or risk of existence, we usually say that we know that one day the son of our daughter will be our savior. There's a saying that talks about Mutungotogo Sarwech Weritaptie. I'm sure you can relate to that. So there's a way in our Kalenjin culture and most of the African cultures, we have a way of always finding solutions somewhere. There's somewhere that something good can come out of it, whether within your clan or even outside your clan. So it's very interesting. So Maponga, as we proceed, our God in Kalenjin we call Asis, and our God is symbolized by the sun. And when the Christianity came into Africa, the first thing I'm sure they were surprised with the Kalenjin people is that these people call their God Asis, and they use the sun to symbolize their spirituality. And we call the sun Asista. So the name of God and the sun is almost the same, or is derived from the same. And so what happened is that Christianity started a propaganda or some kind of branding that Kalenjins worship the sun, which was very bad for us as Kalenjin, because we never worship the sun. And I'm sure there's so many other examples of how Christianity sort of distorted how the Africans believed in God or understood God. So from your experience and observation, have you seen other places whereby the understanding of God as per the African people is being distorted as a way to just destroy and kill it completely?
It's amazing that the way we are beginning to align now. Shona, Sutu, other languages down south, we actually have a very similar in-depth understanding of this concept of the sun. For example, this instrument I hold in my hand is called mbira. Mbira. And you can read the word backwards. A is the great Aleph, the beginning of everything. Ra is the sun, which has come from A. Ira, it makes us holy and sets us apart. It gives us the energy and gives us time. Bira is the event where people gather together for some holy convocations. Mbira is the instrument we play during Bira. And once you hear the instrument, the environment is Ira, sanctified. We are celebrating Ra, who has come from A. And I'm Gwenya Mbira, the player of the Mbira during Bira, which is Ira, celebrating Ra, who has come from A. By the time you get to the mountains of Lesotho, then their name for God, you'll be shocked. As Asians, the name of God is Ra Masedi. Ra Masedi, which means the sun of light. So literally in the whole of Lesotho, Tswana, and the kingdoms in the mountains, they still refer, though in a different name, but word for word is Ra, as if we're already in Egypt itself. They call him Ra Masedi, which means the light, the sun which is the light. So when they pray to Ramasedi. So the question will be, how different is Asiisian concept of God and the Sotho concept of God? But here is where it becomes complicated. Every time you allow a foreigner to interpret your practices. They can only interpret your practices based on their understanding of what it is that you are doing, but on what they know could be happening. So when they find a Shona man sitting under a tree, they say he's worshipping a tree. Meanwhile, they don't know that I'm recognizing the tree, that it has been part of our lives and etc. Same thing with seasons, same thing with the sun, same thing with the moon. And when they see us holding these sticks, they say these are demons. These are what? These are evil spirits. And what? And you don't know, actually I'm holding in my hand a thinking tool, which I use for processing number of, until you ask me, Maponga, what is it that you're holding in your hand? You may think that I'm holding a demon. So the interpretation, even the concept of worshipping the sun, it's not in our culture that we worship the sun. Even the issue that we worship the dead. We don't worship the dead. The same thing they will say, I'm worshiping the dead, but you get to your Bible, Jesus, the son of David, the son of Jesse, the son of Abraham, the son of Enosh, the son of. So can we say Jesus is worshiping the dead? We recognize those that have passed on, because it is through them that we have become. So when you hear me say Maponga Joshua, mwana wa Razaro, mwana wa Fudzichena, ndini munyuki, chigara mboko, gara mashamba huda, ndini mwana wa Nokwara, mwana wa Nduma, mwana wa Sbou, mwana wa Chapinduka, ndini Soshe, ndini. And tracing my genealogy, it is only intended for the purposes of connecting me with the history that I have, so that my children can know who they are. But when you look at me doing it and you don't know what I'm doing, there you come up with your beautiful words, worshipping demons, worshipping the sun. And I think it's a misconception of a person who is only watching things through the window and thinks he understands what's happening inside the house. And until these white people, honestly, including some of our pastors who are now intoxicated, infatuated, constipated with colonial knowledge, until they come closer to ask exactly what is happening, it's part of hate speech, that they will hate what they don't understand.
So like Mabonga, you really go deep a lot. Like now this concept of worship, you know the thing about worship, it's not even in our language. In our Kalenjin language, there is no even word for worship. And you know, we even ask ourselves, why should you worship God? And why should you worship the understanding of God, like from the rising sun, like from the wind, like from the waters? And you see, Assis, the divine did not give us any conditions. You know, for you to worship something, it must have threatened you. So when we look at, you know, even for me, when I look at the idea of the concept of worshiping God, it's a colonial concept. And it means this God is a tyrant, is a dictator, because he wants to be worshipped. So,
not only a tyrant, you make him very weak. Because this is no longer the God who created. This is now the God that you create. It is a God who feeds from you. It is a God who needs you to recognize him, that he is there. Therefore, we must wake up every morning like God has got a low self-esteem. I mean, I'm a father. I'm a father and I have children. So imagine I have my 2, 3, 4 daughters every morning when they wake up. Oh, Dad, you are the most beautiful. 10 o'clock later, they come, oh, Dad, we just love you. 12 o'clock, they come again, oh, Dad, there's none like you. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, oh, Dad, you know, you're so beautiful. Oh, Dad, hey, children, get away from here. Go to work. This whole concept of making human beings subjects of worship, I think distorts God. Because then this God can be bribed. This God can be made happy. This God can be manipulated. This God can be managed. This God actually gets jealous. This God can get angry. And this God can kill. And when he kills other people, this God is happy. He's the kind of God who can take the Jews and give them the land that belongs to the Palestinians. Instead of him being God who is a creator, create your own land for your favorite children. No. He takes the land. It's almost me like a father. I buy my daughter a present. Just when my daughter is happy that she received a present, I tell my other son, go and get it. Am I not the creator of war here? And how can we begin to think of this God? And within that concept, that's why they come to Africa. Because when you don't believe in their God, you don't deserve to be alive. You don't deserve rights to land. And they begin to read the Bible. I'll give you land. Wherever your foot will go, it will belong to you. And so when the white people come here and they find that Africans are believing in Asis, they use the Bible to say, because you don't believe in God, we have a right and ownership over your disbelief to our God. Therefore, you are less than us. We have a right taking what belongs to you because our God gives us permission to do so. So colonialism is actually not just political. It is religious. Because it is within the understanding that if you don't believe in God, you don't deserve to live. That's why you find this God in the Bible, take your swords, go and cut the stomachs of pregnant women, kill all the men, kill all the... hit their heads on the stones and kill them. And this God looks like he's a temper maniac who has got anger issues.
Exactly.
And for people to think that we can be able to limit God and worst of it all, then this God is supposed to be hiding in a book somewhere. You find him in John 3 verse 16. Go there, you find him. Oh, the whole creator of the universe is hiding in a book, and he must be looked for and found. And I think this is a myopic, colonial. We as Africans, we believe that our land speaks. Our waters speak. The air speaks. That's why creation says, when he went to the waters, he says, bring forth the fish. He went to the land and says, bring forth the animals. When he went to the air, he says, bring forth the birds. Now follow me carefully. So it means that when you access water and you can talk to it, the African knows that. When you access the land, you can talk to it. The African knows that. When you look at the air, the African talks to it. He knows that. And these three elements composite in us makes what we call life. And therefore to address them with respect and humility as sacred spaces from whence we have come becomes our first contact of what we might want to deem as African spirituality. It is to recognize that which is outside of us as much as it is inside of us, and to connect the water and the water, the soil and the soil, the air and the air. That is the beginning of consciousness. There's no worship that is above that than for you to know that this is life. And as you take it, it is actually, quote unquote, a religious expression. As you eat, this is life. And therefore, before you eat, gratitude and thankfulness should precede that. And as you breathe, it is life. And as such, every breath must count. And to be aware of these elements, this is what Asiisian is all about. I think we don't worship the sun. We eat the sun. You didn't hear me?
We live it.
We eat the sun. It is through the sun that all the crops, all the animals, everything has. So you can say, I'm eating a fruit. You're not eating a fruit. You're eating the sun. And understanding that the sun is the husband of earth, which fertilizes and makes everything functional. That cannot be worshipped. That is the very life itself.
Very interesting, Maponga. Now we're looking at, I want us, maybe you tell us your observation from other African spiritualities, which I can see is very similar across the board. Okay, let's take an example. First, our understanding and connection to our Creator was not a sort of a slave and master. It was never. It is something that was introduced to us recently through these religions. Looking at our Asiisian spirituality or Kalenjin spirituality, we never used to fear God. Even while praying, we never prayed with some kind of fear in us, or some display of weakness, or some display of being meek, being vulnerable. Being close to God to us meant that we meet as elders. The elders lead the prayers. They pray, we chant, we are not crying, and all that. Compare it with the modern religions, the foreign religions that are now with us. People are shouting all over. People are crying. Even in our Kalenjin culture, men are not supposed to display weakness. Men are just supposed to be calm. Even women themselves are not behaving like they are so vulnerable, even during prayers. What is happening? Why are we feeling like we must behave like a slave in front of God. It is something quite un-African, and I want you to tell us, based on your observation, and why are these religions trying to make people look like they are so weak, they must beg God? So it is totally opposite to what we, the Africans, or maybe specifically the Kalenjin, we used to relate with God.
So you see, to build on your point, the Kalenjins, when these missionaries came here to the Kalenjin land, our elders, our ancestors were shocked at the level of how they frequently pray. Until they nicknamed them, they were called Kipsom Hasis, those who beg Hasis, those who beg God. You see, even in our prayers, when even our elders, they are giving their prayers, they are saying, give us, konech. So, and then, Asis is not supposed to be disturbed. Basically, you are not supposed to be disturbing our God. All the time you are begging, you are praying. No, when things are okay, our ancestors just took it that things are comfortable. And that's why even our prayers, when we are going to our annual Cap Chorus prayers, you find that even in the whole year, we are praying even like 2 times or 3 times. Because you are not supposed typically to be becoming a beggar. Why are you coming to beg?
Very importantly so, that even those who say they believe in the Bible don't actually believe in the Bible, so to speak. The Bible does not say anywhere that I will bless your prayers. Nowhere. It says, I will bless the labors of your hands. I will bless what you work for. But unfortunately, people have converted prayer into labor. They think that fighting with God and begging God will get results done. On why are things happening like that? Then I will be forced to go back into my thinking tool. And then this time around, I will need to divide it into 4 sections. That will be the east, that will be the west, that will be the north, and that will be the south on my 4 portions here. So if you want to look at the slavery of people with their gods, then quickly you want to come out and say, how are they worshiping in the north? How are they worshiping in the east? How are they worshiping in the west? And how are they worshiping in the south? This concept of a slave and master God, where is it most prominent? Is it a problem of the Chinese? Is it the problem of the Europeans? Is it the problems of the Americans? Or is it the problem of the Africans? So you begin to see an adulteration. People that don't have access to their resources, they become slaves to those that control them. So you begin to see that element, that disenfranchised people who don't own anything become servants and slaves. In some certain cases, like in Africa, you can become a servant and a slave on your own piece of land because you don't have access to it. You end up working for the master. So this whole master-servant, the white man becomes the custodian of the land, the custodian of the slaves, as he has been appointed by God, according to the Bible, to come here and bring light to the Africans. Isn't it not interesting that you as Asians, you actually believe in the sun, and then the white man came here to bring you the light? Because Africa is dark, Then how do you bring light to people who already know that the God we believe in is light? So you see this hierarchy already of a slave, a master, and God. And as it were, the African, who is a slave at the bottom of the table, cannot directly access God. So the whole concept of Jesus as the mediator comes in very conveniently. Then you cannot access the big boss. It must come through me. And the same system goes through schools, goes through education, goes through legal issues. You always need someone. You need lawyers. You can't talk to the judge. So church becomes an orientation center of all these colloquial forms of excluding Africans from the activities of their own welfare.
I think that is very deep. And on our online spaces, we are seeing so many comments. And most of the Asiisians are actually appreciating the fact that we are rising. We are reviving our spirituality. And the major tool that was used to control Africans and destroy all these things is when the colonial conquest destroyed our social, economical, and cultural institutions.
Before you go very far, there's a question that has come through here, which I need to respond to. Someone is asking a question, why do you use English in your conversation? You're disturbing us with this language. The person is on Facebook right now. And I want to ask the person the question, why did you write the question in English? Write the question in your language. So don't become confused. Africa has been colonized. We use a thorn to remove a thorn. We're using English as a tool to reach all of us. Kana mukanditaura nechikaranga, mukandi ukhirikiti nechokwedu, uye akada kutaura nechikukuyu chake, akada kutaura nemasai, uye akada kutaura nezulu, tinodzikana yangu wamanyama mire nerongo. Hakuna uchawauti muono tukudi. Saka hakuzi kubwa kutaura nechirungu kuidza kubetserana, kuti tibonesane, tigogona kudzidzisana zvakanaka. So some of these questions, I've seen them 1,000 times. It's some of these colonial minds trying to look educated as if now they understand Pan-Africanism. Go get a life. Go get a life. Find the closest lake and jump and drown yourself. I will only take you seriously when you write your questions also in your language. Then we take it from there. But Africa is big, of course. Let's not be arrogant unnecessarily and try to disturb a beautiful lesson. We're here to learn, not to show off some colonial, colloquial, twisted minds. Sit down. Sit down.
Okay, another, maybe to jump into that, is it, some people are looking like when we start reviving or trying to connect to our roots and our ancestors and the values that our ancestors kept for many years, they tend to believe that we are going backwards. And I'm wondering, is it wrong to transition from wearing the skin? Because Africans, initially we were using the skins as clothing. What is wrong if we innovate and improve
young man,
why are people having a problem?
You're opening a can of worms. You see,
just a bit of it.
Of all the things that could have happened in our generation, one of the best things that happened was COVID. COVID happened. And Africans all of a sudden discovered that they are Africans. We all went back to our herbs. We all went back to our traditional ways of steaming. We all went back to survival mode. Now, what are you going to do one day when you wake up to discover that? Like, for example, I'll give you another one. In the 1960s and 70s, when we were born, some of us, there was a product called Ambi. You see how dark I am? If you used that thing to put on your skin, for our aunties who went to town, they would become light in complexion. So they went to town dark like this. They came back Muzungu. But a few years later, it was discovered that in Ambi there's mercury. So that's why those women now have maps of Africa on their faces. So when they discovered that, then they stopped using. What are you going to do when you discover finally that these vaccines are evil? What are you going to do when you discover that the bras that you are putting, they have silicone inside, and when you sweat, the silicone leaks into your body, causing breast cancer? What are you going to do when you discover that the pads our women are using for their periods, some of them have chemicals in them that cause cervical cancer? What are you going to do when you discover that the contraceptions we are drinking is causing breast cancer, fibroids, menopause immaturely, and lots of complications, and pregnancies, unwanted pregnancies, and what are you going to do? What are you going to do when you discover that plastic clothes are actually not healthy for your skin? And yet, skins and natural cotton clothes that allow the skin to breathe. The biggest organ that you have on your body is your skin. And the way you treat your skin through what you put on. So you cannot come around and tell me that we are going backwards. Because technology has not yet come to tell you that what you consider to be backward is forward. One day when you wake up, you will find out that your ancestors knew and understood this thing much, much better. By becoming more educated, you are becoming sick. you are becoming stupid, you are living shorter. Look at the old men, going 70, going 80, still walking. I wonder how many of us as young people who reach that age, and yet we say we're educated, we're civilized. How come in our civilization we're living shorter? Maybe you need to look at it from that angle and say it's not about being backwards. And I think I've broken rules in that department where I no longer conform to anything. I put on what I want, I make what I want when I want, and I create my own clothes. Because again, it is healthier. Even these issues. One day you'll wake up, all of you. I know you're now believing in Asianic, but you have not yet started taking it seriously in terms of your traditions. Men's health. The male organs must be 2 degrees less than the whole body. For men's health. Underwear are not healthy, because then they pull the whole organ to the body, making the temperature of the body and the organs the same temperature, causing infertility amongst men, for example, where women must be 2 degrees warmer. That's why our old mothers, African traditional mothers, would keep a cloth around their waistline so that their womb is always warm and they will not have a problem with their period pains and etc. But these modern young girls walk around with their stomachs outside. The temperatures are cold, and when they are pregnant, those children are literally sleeping in a fridge, causing many other problems. I leave it to you who are engineers and doctors. Go and do your research and find out what are the effects of a cold, frozen stomach and the effects of a warm stomach, and tell me that our ancestors are backwards. So men must not put on underwear. It must hang for health. Women must keep warm so that their wombs are also warm. These are what you might call ancient and backwards. But according to me, this is way ahead. Hence I say I'm a watcher from the future, living with you in the present, with solutions
From the past.
from the past.
Thank you so much, Dr. Joshua-amaponga. That's very interesting. Now, I'm seeing some many comments streaming in. You know, most of us Asiisians, we are mostly young men and women, mostly young men. And those who have embraced Asiisian spirituality are mostly the Gen Zs and mostly the millennials. We are trying to break the ceiling now. And the biggest challenges facing these millennials and Gen Zs are economic challenges. We've noted that the structures introduced that colonized most of our societies destroyed these sustainable economic structures that were in place. Now, looking at the ancestral intelligence and as ancestral knowledge and the indigenous knowledge that we are having, that we are now trying to retrace and digest and also download from our ancestors, how can we now forge ahead? How can we now use this knowledge to transform our economic? That's nice.
Networks, entrepreneurship, combined business strategies, youth development, small community projects, whereas young people will need to find a way in how do we consolidate our efforts so that we can begin to create a business functional unit within ourselves. There is no substitute. Otherwise, you just end up as talkers. You need to find a way, accessing land, means of production, retail. You need to build your own economy until you have even your own banks, you have your own schools, you have your own clinics, you have your own maternity wards where women are delivering children. You have your own agricultural projects. You eat your own food and allow your money to move from one hand to another hand amongst yourselves. If one of us is selling cars in the organization here, we all buy from him. If one of us is making clothes, we all buy from him. If one of us is selling insurance, we all buy from him. If one of us is doing food, we all buy from him. Until such a time where the day-to-day expenses of our homes, the money changes hands from one Asian to another Asian. There is no substitute for that. Otherwise, we're going to spend lots of time talking and taking all our monies again and giving them back to the same system that destroys us. Study the Jews. Study the Indians. Study the Chinese. How money creates a sub-economy that services its own people. So I cannot buy it away from you. In the midst of the Gen Zs being excited, we need to convert that excitement into a proper financial system that works for us. So the young people must get yourself together, as all of you. And I can help you here and there. I need a CV of every one of you. With that CV, then we put you in clusters. Those that are into IT, those that are into engineering, those that are into telecoms, those that are into fashion, those that are into farming, and see how you can create a profile of the 2,000 members that you have right now, where you can start accessing tenders, start looking for jobs and contracts, start looking for service provision, both locally, regionally, and internationally. You can begin to export your skills where you can begin to access meaningful funding so that you can grow yourselves. If you have farmers that are amongst you, then access land, produce food for yourselves, and the excess sell to the market. So manufacturing, be it assembling, be it redesigning, engineering, innovation, but you need to find a way of creating money. Without money, you're wasting time. Politics is a prostitute of economics. He who pays the piper decides the tune.
Well put, Maponga. Well put. I think for our young people, facing the future with our spirituality and our clear identity is very important. We understand that you are an entrepreneur, you are a fashion enthusiast, you are a creator in many ways. And looking at the trends now, people are yearning to get more knowledge or more products that are indigenous, that are natural, that are traditional and cultural. And that is something that many young people can participate in terms of economic development. From your observation, knowledge, connecting our spirituality with the future or the economics that we are currently within. Can you advise young people on how they can tap into this rich cultural heritage that is buried, that is not known? And there's a huge market for this. What's your take and what's your advice?
The next group of millionaires in the world are going to be owners of what I call IP, which is intellectual property. IP stretches from products to ideas. And I would want to challenge every African child that the terrain of our culture has not yet been tampered with at all. Look at brands such as Gucci. Look at brands such as Versace. Look at brands such as Joshuamapongas and some of these big corporate Louis Vuittons. Some of those brands are actually stolen African symbols that have been created into brands. But look how many more symbols do we still have that have not yet been tapped into. This is not only in terms of clothing and design. This goes for our perfumes. The other day I was in the bush actually there in Mount Kenya. There is that white leaf that you find next to the mountains there, which has a nice smell in it. Our old parents used to use it as perfume, and you put it in your bag and it makes you smell nice. Who has bothered to actually look into that and create a new perfume, create a new air freshener that is environmentally friendly? Look at these old people. Our culture is our library. Say that after me. Our culture is our library. Literally, if you walk into culture and you identify what culture is doing, the real question you have now, how do you take that idea, brand it, package it, manufacture it, sell it, register it as an IP, and go to town. Whether it is making these things and creating a brand around the world and selling them. Tell me how many millions you will make. Whether it is taking these very symbols that you have, if people have an idea of what it is, and a nice manual is written next to it, and it is put on the market there, tell me who would not want to buy it and have it. So look around your culture, look around your emblems, look around your fashion, look around your, and all these things for me, whether it is your clay pots, whether it is the way in which you make your shoes, your sandals, whether it is your medicines, whether it is everything that our culture has, it's a library which is waiting for you to go there, harvest that intellectual property, and then be able to, I mean, when someone's got a headache, we know you must eat this and that and that. Who has bothered to actually start making medicines out of those things and align them as part of our medicines? We have lots, from pharmaceuticals to fashion, to education, to crafts, to art, to technologies, which has not yet even been tapped into. There's some, you know the toothbrush tree that we have around the mountains here?
Yeah.
That tree, you can take the stick, clean up your teeth. You can eat the roots. It cleans up your tongue, cleans up your gingivitis and your gums, your halitosis, and what and what. One little herb. Who has ever thought of making toothpaste out of that thing?
No one.
And then you ask me, how do we tap into? You tap into by stepping back into culture and appreciating your culture, and then study, understand, and import, move that culture and convert it into business.
Thank
So
you so much.
use culture.
Yeah, we are encouraging our young people to use our culture, our spirituality, which is the foundation for us, for our existence, and use it for economic development, especially on matters technology.
Let's give them a nice hashtag. Turn your culture into currency.
Yeah, turn your culture into
or
currency.
Hashtag our culture, our business. Currency. Or our culture, our currency.
Very nice. That's a good slogan. That's a takeaway home for today. And maybe I will jump to my brother Chebon. You being a profession, I'm sure you've experienced a lot of backlash, a lot of fear, a lot of uncertainties when you started switching from Christianity to Asiisian spirituality. When you started this journey, how is the experience? And I want Maponga to listen to how most of us are feeling now. When we started this journey, when we started saying publicly that we are Asiisians, we are going back to our roots, there are so many things that happened in our lives. And even today, we still feel some kind of rejection, sometimes misconception about the entire thing. So maybe Chebon, you can highlight something about it so that we can go back to Maponga, because I think we are past 1 hour and we don't want to take so much time. So let's talk about that, and then we can see how we can manage the crisis that these young people turning back to their roots are facing, and how they can manage it and move boldly towards their future with their spirituality.
Thank you so much, Binot. I think it's not easy how you ask me. Like for me, when I decided that I need to go back, even for me, I have an history. Just like Mabonga was also in the church, even for me, I was in the church. And you know, one of the biggest battles we are fighting now as Asiisians is most of other people, they are saying we are rejecting God. And you know, it is so interesting because they think that even our ancestors, they did not know God. But in reality, we are not even rejecting God. We are rejecting the colonial understanding of God. We are just saying that. You see, we are trying to tell people that we as Asiisians, we are rejecting the idea that there is a certain group of chosen people. There's a certain group of people who decided to travel and they came overseas. And some of them even were prospecting for some gold. They were doing some business. And they are saying this group of people brought to us God. No. So for me, it has not been easy. Because now I realize that God assists is the define already, we already knew. Our ancestors, they already knew God. And now, I think that is one of the challenges we are having as Asiisians, and we are really facing a lot of backlash. Some of them, they are even coming and they are saying we are even anti them. So it's not easy.
Personally, I've faced that too. Even at family level, you find some relatives began looking at you like you are a devil worshipper. And in fact, in the African context, we never had the idea of a devil. We never had the idea of heaven. When I tell my people, my relatives, that there's no heaven or hell, because my great-grandfather never knew anything about that. We don't have even vocabularies, names for heaven or hell. So we are living in interesting times, Maponga, but I assure you that I think we are now slowly being accepted, but now they are looking at us. These guys who are saying they are Asiisians, they are waiting for them to maybe become poor. They are waiting for us to be sort of not able to meet our needs. But what do you say? Because the world now is based on how rich you can be, how much money you can amass, how you can fit into the system to be successful. You've traveled a lot. It's a big challenge for many young people who are trying to get back to their roots, connect to their true identity and spirituality, and still make it and be successful in the modern world.
So I think also, Binot, you see now, when you decide to be an Asiisian, when you come back to our culture, of which in our culture, we call it kipka. Kipka. Kip means the thing which belongs to home. For us, ka means home. So now when you come back to home, you are now becoming responsible. You see, imagine now as an Asiisian, you no longer say there is heaven and heaven where you're going to inherit a room, or even there is no any salvation which is coming for you. So this means it's not easy, because you now need to be responsible. Because it is very easy for you to believe in God, and in the idea of salvation is coming from somewhere there, that now when you become Asiisian, now you need to be responsible. You need to face the reality. You need to come back home. You need to understand that there is nowhere, there is nobody who is coming to save you. You are the savior yourself. So it has not been easy, and it will take time. I think now most of our people, they're waking up.
My 2 cents contribution on that is we needed to find a functional, productive model. The truth is your practices will either make you or break you. And I think a good product sells itself. You need to live better lives. And you need to show that what you are doing now can make you live okay. And this comes through a whole chain of support structures for yourselves that you can create for yourselves, so that you can slowly begin to unplug from the grid and then develop a community that is sustainable. And by the way, do not be led astray and do not be threatened by people who say you are a cult. Christianity is a cult also, for crying out loud. Catholicism is a cult. Show me one church that could say they are not a cult. So we have been there. We have, bought the t-shirt, it's torn. You cannot be threatened by people who try to make themselves superior, that you are now worshiping this, you are now doing that, this is acceptable, this is not acceptable. According to who? According to who? And this whole thing of do it simply because old people have been doing it like that, the church, it has been happening like that, I think that time is way, way gone. And had Christianity been truthful when it came here, I think some of us would have still been even Christian. But it is the lies. It is the covering up. It is the dishonesty. It is the thuggery. It is the thieving and the stealing. It is that the lack of morality when it comes to political and social issues, where you would want to maintain people in poverty instead of handing them back their own glory, giving them their own land. I asked a question the other day on my Facebook page. What does Jesus say about land? Simple question. When is he going to stand up, Jesus, and say, give Africans back their land? No, Christianity, we can't talk like that because land is political. We must obey our masters and pray for your leaders. That kind of theology, and say, how do you pray for a thief to continue stealing? A revolution. And why did he himself, Jesus, and God not teach the Israelites to pray? Why did he send them to war? Because some certain things will not happen through prayer. They happen through war. So it is this dishonesty, according to me, that really turned me off and said, no man, there's something not happening. Things have happened because people have stood up, picked up their spears and guns and went to war. Now Christianity is happy to be worshipping in a free Kenya, but you are not willing to die for it. But you want to enjoy the independence. You don't want to take guns and go and fight. But once you are free, you are the first ones up front to say, we are now living in a free, our God is good. Good where? So he was not good when others were dying in the battlefront. And you were safe at home. So it is some of these inconsistencies that literally confuse some of us. That we needed to start finding a way of making our testimony, our lifestyles, as improved as much as possible. And we do that by doing the best of what we can. And I'm happy in this room is full of professionals. Professionals. Be the best of who you can. And the next bus stop is 3, 4, 5, 6 of you. Start putting your monies together. Help this brother this month. Put your monies together again. Help that brother next month. Put your money together. Help their brother next month. And work together to improve each other. Give each other contracts. Improve. People must be attracted to something that is functional. People want to be identified with successful things.
Thank you so much, Maponga. I think the clear message is that as Asiisians, we should build something that is sustainable, our lifestyle. We actually consider our spirituality as a lifestyle. We are living on a daily basis, connecting with our Creator, being with our Creator. We don't have to talk so much, but every time when you lit a fire at home, every time when you wake up, when you see the sun is rising, you acknowledge that our Creator is still there, is providing for all of us, and he's not unfair. He loves everyone. And so I think maybe now moving forward, Maponga, you've been a champion of African spirituality, the renaissance and the true connection to our roots. How can we use our spirituality? You've been to Mount Kenya recently. You've been to many places. How can we, or how are we, tell us, how can we use this spirituality to unite Africa before? How can we transcend these boundaries that were drawn recently? Not even more than 200 years ago. How can we unify Africa and entire humanity using our spirituality?
I have argued, and I will still continue to argue until everyone understands. And I'm not backing down on that argument. All our African governments are illegitimate. All our countries are illegitimate. All the borders are illegitimate. Ask me why. Because we cannot say Berlin Conference was illegitimate. And then the borders that were drawn by Berlin Conference become legitimate. So there's nothing called Kenya until Berlin Conference. There's nothing called Tanzania until Berlin Conference. So by legitimizing Berlin Conference, then you come out of that. I come from Kenya. Then are you confused? Which part of this are you not understanding? How can this be wrong and this be right? The product of something that was evil is what we call countries right now. So I would declare it clearly, loud and clear, that all what you call countries are provinces. The country is Africa. And if we understand that, then we can begin to have a meaningful spirituality conversation that understands that the Hutus and Tutsis that are in Rwanda, the Hutus and Tutsis that are in Uganda, the Hutus and Tutsis that are in Burundi, the Hutus and Tutsis that are in Mangole and that are found in Mount Kenya, they are one people. Then we can understand that the crocodile in Kenya, from the tribe and the totems of the crocodiles, is actually the Ngwenya that is in South Africa. That is actually the the Gushungos that are in Zimbabwe, the lions that are in Kenya, they are the same lions that are in the south. And the baboons that are in Mount Kenya are the baboons. And here is the mystery of all mysteries that I should share with you as young people. That our totemic connections, they supersede our languages. So you can say, I'm Kikuyu, I am Hausa, I am Ashanti, I am Zulu, I am Bemba, I am Sena. No. What's your totem? I am from the buffalo. Oh, well, I am Nyati. And I'm what? And we may begin to find that language is secondary to our totems. And as such, we need to start teaching Africans these connections. For immediately when we tap into that, you begin to see that we are true brothers and relatives. Now imagine this whole thing of South Africa, xenophobia. That a monkey from South Africa is killing a monkey from Kenya. Are you not killing your own blood brother? Blood brother. But ignorance, however, becomes the passport of such evil. And I think you being here at the cradle of mankind, I may need to connect you actually with the Waganda kingdom in Uganda, where they've actually structured the 12 main totems in the kingdom of Waganda. And you can connect that knowledge with what you have, with the knowledge I have from the south, and begin to have a pull, since you guys are IT savvy, and see how we can connect as many of our African people to each other. Literally. Ultimately, we want to see your children coming down south to marry. We want to send our children up here to look for wives. Because until we begin to break these boundaries and borders and interact one with another, we may think that we are different, when actually we are one and the same thing. And in my own words, I will refuse to be made to be feeling like a stranger anywhere on the continent of Africa. My grandfathers are coming right from here. When we trace some of our histories in Yemen, some of our history is found in Ethiopia, in Nagaste, and I trace my roots here into Embos, into Southern Africa, into the Southern Hemisphere, and I'm from the Karanga tribe. Ka, there you go. Ra, there you go. Nga, there you go. Ka, Ra, Nga. The people of the light with wisdom and knowledge of healing. And there you are.
So it is a tie. I want to switch for the wavelength to the local language. It is a tie. Pick up Colenjin. Ke neti ke yago banga lekchi hechen. Chibo pitenyo na baga ka. Ka go nete pondani. Punu kilenen heme nebo Zimbabwe. Ke legitupche. Ka go mo we chonto. Chonto negile moset nebo yirayu. Kule barege mose nebo Kenya, ako barege ang mose nebo South Africa, ako tupcho ka ko mo we jobonge tungto talaek kichoche. Kule mito talaek chibunu Zimbabwe. Ka ko nete chi ngal chi chang chi hechen. Ko kemeche ke mo wagelen jon ke testai ke ptenit. Ke net ke ngalek kit ne rube sai ko mo ke ye sautik aye bishe me ga ye bondone. Ake perur ake ko chigelen perurto. Ke aye page boisien tuguk chebo kipka. Seretionde nilipuop ngalekab kipka kuni kiboisien ak chego tuguk cho. So I'm talking about the next that we are going to another session that we are going to perform some traditional blessings, and we are also going to do some prayers and some gifting ceremony. But meanwhile, we are just telling our viewers that we are almost going to the end of our session, but we are now going to conclude. And I was thinking, Mr. Binot, that if we could play a local vernacular song for just to give a break, a small break here, we relax and we ease ourselves as we listen to the wisdom, we internalize, we digest from Maponga what he has already talked, because it's too heavy. I think you also agree it's too heavy. But before that, I think we need to also to come back to something you talk about, Ra. I think we've listened to Ra, Rama Sedi. In our language, we talk about Asiisian, Ra, the son of today. So Ra, again, is defined, is talking about the sun and God. So you see,
the day.
it's about the day. So there's a lot of things I think Mabonga has really talked here, and they are so heavy. I don't know how we are going to continue.
We can't manage everything, my brother Chebon.
So we will go to...
Yeah, I think the best we can say is that we've had a very nice session. I think we might not continue so much. We'll move on to the next stage. But Maponga, maybe you can say your final words and you can tell us how maybe we can still connect further, how we can create a community of people who are trying to champion or connect to their roots, even across Africa. I'm sure you have a lot of, you have something going on relating to that you can tell us. And here in Kenya already we know the Kikuyu people are trying also to retrace their traditional prayers. The Maasai have always been practicing their traditional prayers. And I'm sure this is a very strong revival, especially among the young people. Our parents are quite jittery, they are scared, but our grandparents, I can assure you, they have our full support. They are actually supporting us so much, more than our parents. Our parents are obviously quite scared, but the young people and the elders are very happy about this thing. So how can we now build this movement even more sustainably going forward? And then we go back to the final prayers.
I think the last but not least thing that we need to mention, when people say to you that you have backslidden, you are a backslider. Maybe we need to clarify that and say, who is a backslider here? Is it the one who left their culture to become like a white man? Or the one who has left the white man's culture to go back to their tradition? Who is a backslider here? So all Christians are backsliders, because they've abandoned their own culture. So instead of them saying you are the backslider, instead they are the backsliders. Number one. Two, he who hates our culture is an enemy of our identity. Whoever condemns our culture is an enemy of our identity. For we cannot be defined in any other way except when we define ourselves. And to go back, why are people afraid of people becoming themselves? Why? What scares? What scares? What scares the world when Maponga J knows who he is? Because all of a sudden, my back goes straight. I remember who I am. I know whose land I am in. I know whose identity I am. And I know who you are. I know who my enemy is. I know who my friend is. And this identity scares colonialism. Because when Africans finally identify and know themselves, they will be able to put the white men in their correct seats and sit them down where they belong. And without identity, we will be abused. With identity, we can run a good revolution that turns us back to ourselves. So here's the conclusion. It is the roots that support the tree. It is not the tree that supports the roots. It is the roots that support the tree. It's not the tree that supports the roots. Therefore, your roots are your ancestors. Your roots, your history. Your roots, your culture. And once you are in touch with your roots, you will have fruits on the top side. So therefore, you water the roots to harvest the fruits. Hey, I hope you can catch that. You water the roots
to
harvest
the fruits.
So do not worry about fruits. Worry about the business of watering your roots. As long as the roots are watered, seasons will come where fruits will surely be harvested. And I want to encourage you as young students who are still here with you, still a few years that are in our bones, to encourage you and share information as much as we can. But wherever possible, let's learn together, take what you understand, put it into practice. This is not a religion. This is a lifestyle, And why must you always be doing these traditional things? Eating traditional foods so that your memory can remember. Your tongue has memory. And when you eat traditional foods, your ancestors are lying in the grave, but they are alive in your blood. We do the drumming, we do all these things so that we can remind ourselves who we were. And when we activate that, the land knows us. From it we came, to it we shall return. We are at one with it.
Powerful, powerful. Those are heavy and powerful wise words from Dr. Joshuamaponga. And I'm happy that you know how to actually explain and show that watering the roots is the ultimate, it should be our ultimate business. Yeah. Without the roots, there's no fruits. Thank you so much, Dr. Joshuamaponga. The conversation is ongoing online. A lot of comments. Many people are debating there. Some are arguing. Let the conversation continue. People are learning. People are talking. We are very happy. And we'll be happy to connect with other people from your country, the places you visit. I'm sure help us build this community across Africa. And we'll be very happy about it. Then Chebon.
So Binot.
I would like to invite some of you guys. I'm building a village also in Zimbabwe. Maybe we will talk to administrators and see when we can bring some people up here, and you also can come down there and see what we're doing.
Thank you so much.
Sure,
so to put in to highs about the watering the roots.
Yeah.
Now you will ask, Asiisians will ask us, which kind of tree are you watering? You are watering kipka.
Kipka tree.
Yes, you are watering
not the foreign trees.
kipka. That is kipka. Now is the tree. And when you are watering this tree, now it's growing. Yeah. You see, kipka, which is our way of life. It's our culture. Yeah, that's now where you are pouring the water. And now it's growing. And then you ask, out of this watering, where is our God? God is our Asiis is the light, which is now giving life to this tree. Yeah. You see, it is the rain. It is the rain which is bringing water to the tree. This is now our understanding of the divine, which is bringing, and then the leaves of the tree is now the understanding, the knowledge, the wisdom from our ancestors. And when you talk about a trunk, it's our heritage. You see now, this tree. So we need to water. And the people without a roots
have no destiny.
They are nowhere.
They say without identity, there is no destiny without identity. So thank you so much, our people. I know the entire Africa is watching. So I'm sure your fans are watching, and many people are watching this thing, and we are really happy. So I think just to wrap up, we'll have some music, and our elder will do the blessings. We'll bless our brother here, our elder brother, Maponga. Yeah, are we ready to have the music? Yeah,
put some music. We need
some music dance. And then aboy yagun diari sinyo yayep Maponga chorwenyo
bas.
So we can stand Maponga maybe to stretch a bit,
so break
with some music. And then Mzee, the elder, will gift you with some African gifts.
Kalenjin komangu bagingen gole mi Asiis cheptalel nekiyae ngwany. Biikab Kalenjin komangu bagingen gole mi Asiis cheptalel nekiyae ngwany. Chebo koyo, chebo mircho, chebo kimabaiwe, chepkochor toretechi nyo Asiis. Chebo koyo, chebo mircho, chebo kimabaiwe, chepkochor toretechi nyo Asiis. Mungu Asista en Kalenjin ko kikoboru nene ogenai kele mite Mungu. Lapkeyet ak lilinda nekikochi Mungu ng'wony kenai kele miten Asis. Lapkeyet ak lilinda nekikochi Mungu ng'wony kenai kele miten Asis. Chebo ngolo, chebo koyo, chebo mircho, chebo kimabaiwe, chebo chor toretech inyo Asis. Chebo koyo, chebo mircho, chebo kimabaiwe, chebo chor toretech inyo Asis.
Basi awet saisiek chemoche kikochi morone okakoyosit ng'olian. So komito kainet nemoche kekure chichi, kainan okure akwe komongen ane akur amune ane nenyone kityo. Watoben ale kacham chichi kekure tuitoek kwa sababu.
So he's saying we are now at the moment where we want to bless our friend. And he's saying you are a man, a young man, but looks like you've grown a bit older. And he's also saying he cannot pronounce your name properly, so he has decided to give you a name. And the name you've been given by our elder, our spiritual elder, is Tuitoek, the black visitor, the black guest. Tui is black. Toek is visitors, guests. So you are a black guest. Tuitoek. So you have a challenge
Tuitoek. So komita kainenyi no aga orchogura poro moja konai kiyo konai kole kainenyi no tibunche kwa bulubendi kekure Tuitoek. Kaineno omunjam Kenya.
So that is the name you've been given, the Kalenjin name, Tuitoek, the black man, the black guest. Yeah, we will write it. So you can brag with the name wherever you go. You say, I was in Kalenjin land and I was given the name Tuitoek, the black guest, because you visited us and you are a black champion. You're championing for African spirituality.
Basi kungono anyu ni orara ma kangetinin amecha kuju ngolianjiji saporo ko moruto aporo mo nyoru getar tuyon.
So he wants to gift you? To pray and then gift you.
Kalenjin komangu kokingen kole mi Asis cheptolel nekiyae ng'wony. Biikab Kalenjin komangu kokingen kole mi Asis cheptolel nekiyae ng'wony.
The grass is going to purify this.
Chebo mircho, chebo kimabaiwe, chebo chor toretech inyo Asis. Chebo kayo, chebo mircho, chebo kimabaiwe, chebo chor toretech.
Engeta bachega Mungu akichorwa bai nagae betunu baraine utar tipte magsisit kabagarawen boing ngetinye Mungu amulge ngetena bacha magayoge subui agasis torete amugimita je ngonyunye agemi baragungu tobene agi torete chamuya gatoro agisto wegini ya ketebia moren garan gemite Kenya torete je toyo agi torete chasis torete kabisa amugi mangechen amagitinyo ngubu kubata ngubu kunye ni torete kungeta barak seguyo ijoru kunyongwen segenyoru ngetoret ke tolu kubotin kimito utaje ngonyuni augi yae amesa se jotorot amesa se chasis rasa se jano agunye ni yae torete ninye yumita baragunye itorete amzai tagatol aguitu sauti kwa roe mite we Mungu torete je mabai torete je bujar torete je wore amunye ni ya mul men mita ngwen augi ya ngonyuni mite tol kubata nyonye akoik boto ketik. Itoretu akine kijanayandani. Mokikobori akine kwo emetab chumbek ako soman. Oibu somanana ineten nye inetech kemite ng'wenyunie. Kakonetech weri tuguk chemokingen ako okelengituken ako kamokoseit. Nguno kimeche inyitwech inyete kakomwou weri chekamwowom kutinyin akepchit. Inyitwech inyete Mungu sikunyilale sikuyemwech tugul. Omukele anyun cho tugul kamwou wetorot kaikaswe kakas Jehova. Kakas anyun toyoi. Kakas anyun Asisi mita barak. Kakas anyun aunumitoi koileken. Kakasi nimito anmorop. Kakasi nimito antorgana. Kulei mito boisioi chikosom torot kosom aminingnone netinye kosom kulei konech tugun chikoron chimito ngweny. Omukele akine kijanayat nerikobunu somanet loiye mukele ng'elyepta netinye loiye neng'olone tilil. Mukele ng'elyeptanyi loiye tererat tononoi ng'olonoi lotisiei amweli kawo kosoman weli katonon amkapkirwok kulotei lotisiei tinye itin chekostoi tinye konyan chesoitoi tinye kelyen chiwen tinye yeun chiseren sere. Mututepse koik kiyomisen nebo mwisho. Mututepse koik kiyomisen nebo mwisho.
Bas, Binot.
Now we are done, right?
Yes.
Okay. And the gift?
Kibet. Ibun.
Kibet, you can bring the gifts.
So our representative of Kokwet, Kibet, is going to give out a gift, 4 gifts in fact, to our guests. I think one of them is a stick, another one is a pillow. That is the one when you are resting, you put it on your head. And when you study, you will see in the ancient Kemet, there was something like this. And then a book, which is talking about our Kalenjin spirituality and our identity, which is our sheet.
We will carry them with us wherever we go. I'm an ardent lover of sticks and cultural relics. These have a very special place in my house, and I will always carry your memories with you. Thank you very much for the prayers and the good gesture. I thank you.
So
Thank
maybe
you so
Asiisians, we need to give a final announcement. So we have some announcements maybe to make, that we are going to give a calendar of activities. A calendar of activities of this year. We have our annual prayers. We have our mid-year prayers, which we are going to conduct them, and we are going to announce them in our pages. So we are so honored. We are so happy for a very big interaction and a very good discussion with Bishop Mabonga. So Binot, you can conclude.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. Everyone watching live from Facebook, all over Africa, all over the world. We really appreciate your comments. The engagement there is very lively. Let's talk freely. Let's learn. Let's appreciate our culture as Africa. Thank you so much. I'm sure Maponga will have to visit Zimbabwe. The village you are building will probably plan, if not within this year, Chebon, I think we should try and do it this year. We should come over there and just have a good time, spend the time in the forest, in the villages, and doing the drums and whatever nice things are there. We'll come maybe for a week. Thank you so much.
So maybe we can ask Mabonga from here, where are we going? Where is he going to? So
where are you going, Maponga?
I'm being given an award today for the Pan-African Awards in the Catholic University. Nairobi tonight, so we should be there for 6 o'clock in the evening. If you are in the Nairobi area, please make your way to the Catholic University. I should be there for sunset then. I think I'll take another day or two around before I proceed back into the south.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm sure we'll accompany you there. So I think we should just end it here, guys. Thank you so much. Ingo beruro gasis, ingo tucho gasis, God nyobo kolenjin, God nyobo miot, God nyobo kigir. Ongete senetala, ago ogoitun getuye, betusiek alak. Kongoi missing, kongoi missing, kongoi. Indena oitienda nyun ya kitoroti.
Accidente to la mi temboya.
Ichame jeb kochar, ago charche. Ichame jeb kochar, ago charche. Ichame jeb kochar, ago charche. Kisete moros, accidente to la mi temboya. Ichame jeb kochar, ago charche. Ichame jeb kochar, ago charche. Ichame jeb kochar,